Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Um, sorry, I'm drinking apple rum. It's good enough. So, I've been asked recently, what would you do if you were in an active shooter scenario and you were unarmed? And my answer to that is, why are you unarmed? I mean, really? Okay, so I understand there's a lot of people who don't, and even fewer, but some who cannot carry guns everywhere they go. After all, I go to the VA for treatments and not allowed to carry guns or knives or anything to protect myself there. I have to rely on the old guys who used to be in the military and are now VA security to keep my life and my children's lives going. So I don't know, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I can tell you this. It has been asked of a lot of survivors of catastrophic events what it is that helped them through. And there are two things that really stick out. One, a belief in God. I know some of you are atheists, and I'm not trying to beat religion down your throat, but there is definitely something to be said for believing in a higher power. If you're not as concerned with your life because you know what you have waiting for you in the afterlife, you're probably going to be more focused on making good decisions, I would think. So I'd suggest starting out with a little bit of faith. Beyond faith, I think the second biggest thing was having imagined themselves in that situation before. Even airplane crash survivors often say that the reason they survived was because they kind of had an idea of what they would do, because they have sat around imagining what they would do. There's a mosquito in my face. If something had happened that similar to what they were doing. So it could be argued that you can have experience to some degree without actually having experience. That is, if something happens and you've never even considered the possibility that it might happen, what would you do? You're figuring out as you go. You haven't put any thought into it. But fortunately, and I can thank my father for this, every time I see a scenario, every time I see something happening in the world around me, I ask myself, what would you do? So I usually kind of go through thoughts and processes and think about the options that I have. So we'll go back to our scenario. So you're in, well, we'll use Walmart. You're in Walmart, and a guy comes in with an AK-47, and you don't see it till you start hearing it pop off. Obviously, everybody in that situation is going to think something fell off the counter. It's going to be so bizarre, so unexpected, that you're not going to want to react. Now, after it sets in that that's what's going on and everybody starts running, I think what is happening, and I've never gone in after one of these events, so I really don't know. I'm not the guy to ask. I'm not the expert on what to do when you're not armed, because I'm armed and I'm trained, but I'm not trained on surviving without being prepared, because I live my life prepared. So anyway, what I think happens for most people is they get nervous, they get scared, they try and find a place to hide, and they stay there. Having shot at a lot of targets in my life, tens of thousands of rounds, and mostly at, stagnant, stationary targets, I've also shot at things that are moving, and I can tell you the difference between shooting at a target that's standing still and shooting at a target that's trying to run from you is phenomenal. It is really hard, especially under stress, to hit a moving target. And having watched some of the tapes of some of these shootings, I am pretty sure the one constant is that these guys are always shooting at the guy who stopped, or the woman or whoever, the person who stopped, the target who gave up running and tried to hide. Because these guys aren't leading, they're not chasing, they're not trying to, shoot somebody in movement. I've seen them, I've seen how they act, and what they're doing is they're picking people who are standing still, and they're plowing into them. I think the people who keep moving, the people who are constantly moving, are the ones who live. And that's something that they teach you in the military too. That whole shoot, move, communicate, kill, where the goal here, my dog is trying to play with me. He keeps dropping his ball on my foot. Come here, say hi, Coda. Yeah, see, he thinks we're gonna be playing ball. So anyway, excuse him. So, I just kicked it. So the guys in the military know that if you stop and shoot, you die. And I think civilians should be picking up on that. I think that if you're in a Walmart and somebody starts shooting, keep moving. Don't stop. Don't hide. This idea that you can hide from them is absurd, especially in a Walmart. Where are you going to hide? The guy's walking around with free reign. There's nobody opposing him. Until he runs into somebody who's going to make him focus on them because they're shooting back, which is what I'd be doing, he's just going to walk around looking for people who are standing still, and he's going to put bullets in them. That doesn't end well. So my advice to you, if you don't have like, I don't know, a Bernie Sanders supporter standing in front of you that you can throw at the dude, you're probably going to have to actually run and just keep running and keep running, keep moving. Don't stop. Don't run into the crowd. Do not be part of a target-rich environment. There are a lot of fish, bait fish, whose survival mechanism is to get into a big ball and hope that they're not the target. Big balls of fish attract predators. Big balls of people attract predators. I would find myself going away from the crowd. I would find myself moving constantly. If I see him looking at me, look, yes, you could argue that if you're standing still, they're less likely to see you. People pick up on movement first, sure. But if you're standing still, you're more likely to get shot, because the kind of person who's going into these places, they're not professional shooters. They're not guys like me. They're not guys who have actually practiced on moving targets. They're guys who picked up, you know, fill in the blank gun here, and went on about their boogaloo without any concept of training. You know, they're young guys usually. They're video game guys, and in video games, guns shoot differently. I think you should keep moving. I wish I had more advice for you, but to be honest, I can't even fathom what it's like to rely on prayer in a shooting. That, you know, for what it must be like for these people who have just, they've become a victim because they're not prepared to protect themselves. I can't imagine what it's like to sit in that corner and know that the only hope you have is that he turns a different direction. I can't even fathom that. That's awful. I want to always have the ability to press him back. Most of these people, once somebody fires back on them, they run. They are not gonna keep fighting because they're not ready for that. Nobody who hasn't trained for that is gonna know what to do when forceful and forced contact begins. They're going to usually either drop what they have or just run away scared like the little babies they are. So, I hope this was helpful. I doubt that it was. But what I want to do is I'm going to try and look into it and see if I can find any experts who really do know more about that than I do, and see what they say. So stay tuned. I will be back. I'll be telling you some things you want to hear. I hope you like my channel. I'm trying to make this more interesting as I go. I have a lot more content building up for you, and I think the production quality is going to get better as we go. It won't be this cheesy sitting out on my back porch with an apple rum. And I think we're going to have a good time. Thanks a lot.